Stan used to come over and hang out. Now he comes over and steals all my bleach. I don't feel comfortable around him anymore.
The Stain was a clever, funny film about addiction. It was, yeah, sort of a lighter take on a serious theme. Um, I liked that the lighting in this was really cool. I love the way that they played with subtle like color changes with the lighting. It was all very beautiful. I loved the cinematography in this. It looked great. Um, I liked that, the dialogue was really clever, and there was funny moments when he would hear Stain instead of Brain instead of Jane, like little light moments here and there with sort of a more heavy theme, which I thought was interesting, and a different take on, you know, addiction and that sort of thing. The editing, especially at the end, was really cool and really well done while he's sort of while our main character is spiraling. Um, yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this film and it was a fun watch.
The Stain. Delightfully cheeky and great escalation of humor and commitment to the concept. It just kept on growing bigger and bigger, and I was absolutely enthralled of where this kind of spooky journey was going to go. As his obsession grew, the tension and the stakes evolved, making me physically uncomfortable, which is what I am looking for in a horror, even if it's a comedic horror. Excellent soundscape that built the momentum as well and built that tension in his dedication to eradicating that stain. And it really, the soundscape and that the cinematography really captured that compulsive pull of his heart to the stain. It was really difficult to watch, especially near the end, but I also couldn't pry my eyes away, just like he couldn't pry himself away from his beloved yet hated stain. Great piece.
The Stain. This was a really interesting piece because I think at first it seems quite silly and funny, the concept of these people having an intervention with Stanley because he is obsessed and fixated with the stain and it's just taken over his whole life. So on the top it's like that's a kind of a silly concept, but when we actually get into the film and we see him seriously struggling and being so hyper fixated on getting the stain out and like he can focus on absolutely nothing else, it's quite sad and it's quite serious. And I think it's touching on issues of OCD where your entire you cannot stop until this thing is fixed, until this problem has been solved. And and then at the end, we see that he's doing better, but then he notices another stain. And I thought that was such a great way to end it. But I also thought it was cool that we never actually saw the stain. It is acknowledged that it's real because his roommate or friend does see it and acknowledge it. But you're wondering kind of like, how big is the stain? How dark is the stain? What is the stain that like he cannot get it out for whatever reason? Now I'm curious about the stain. So I thought this was a really unique concept. I thought it was very well done and just kind of left a lot to think about during it, which is, I think, a sign of a great film.
The Stain was such an interesting and enjoyable watch. It focuses on a guy who is fixated and obsessed with a stain, not that we ever see the stain as the audience, and his friends hold an intervention, whose roommate helps him out, and we see him just lose track of everything but the stain. And it's sort of what I read as a metaphor for OCD and sort of an example of some of the symptoms and how bad some mental hyperfixations can get. I really love the fact that we never see the stain. It keeps the audience in suspense. You're left with 1,000 questions of what does it look like, and is the stain actually a literal stain? The roommate says it is, but is it something different to the man, to Steve? It was quick and it was sharp, and it used something that seemed so surface level and comical and turned it into quite a much darker commentary. So really well done.
I thought The Stain was a really well done short horror film. It made me uncomfortable, but also had me at the edge of my seat the entire time, which was impressive. And I think the subject matter of having something make someone so obsessed over was almost all the more freaky and creepy because it is something that could easily happen to someone. There was nothing gory in nature, but realistic, and I think that is what made it that much scarier to witness.
The stain has overtaken his life, consumed by the speck on the wall. He takes down the relationships that he has with others. They come together to have an intervention, but it's too late, for he has been succumbed to the stain, trying anything and everything to get rid of it. Did painting the wall white ever occur to him? We will never know. He goes to the extremes to cover the area in caution tape and stays scrubbing the spot rather than joining in to the party that's going on around him. Hyper-focus as this need for removal. He takes this obsession with the stain as an addict does to certain drugs, who then goes to rehab after almost poisoning his friend with acid, only to then be fixated on something new at the very end. Addiction is a horror, and in a sense, we see this tragedy of what this character's life has become due to his addiction.
The Stain. This was really clever. It was really, really clever. And there were so many parts of this story that were genuinely funny that I laughed out loud. And I loved the twist at the end. Very clever and very funny at the same time for everyone. The cast did amazingly. Everybody in this, I thought, did such a great job. I loved the way that it was shot. When your lead actor was looking at the stain, how the edges of the film were blurred a bit. So you could really tell that, oh, this is where he's looking at that stain thing. And I love the fact that we never got to actually see what the stain was. We didn't need to. We could imagine it in our minds, what kind of a stain this was, that he was using all of these ingredients, all of these different methods to try to get rid of it, and he couldn't. So yeah, I thought that this was really, really cool and great job.